Hi guys, welcome back to another video. In this video I'm going to be continuing the workshop makeover. So if you haven't seen part 1 where I stripped the workshop down, go check that out. If not, stay tuned because in this video I'm going to be making a start on the mitre station. Right, so I'm now ready to start assembling the base units for the mitre station. So I've got my panels all cut to the right height and width. I've got some 4-inch strips which I'm going to be using to attach the two sides together, and I'm going to cut some notches out on the main panels for these to sit in. So now I can take the little piece that I cut off the top and I can use that as a template to mark up where I need to notch out at the bottom. So at first the assembly was quite tricky because I was trying to balance the pieces while I drilled, countersunk and then drove in the first screws. But once the first support was in place, it got a lot easier. Right, first carcass is done. I've just got to repeat the process to make the second one. Still got to level it up, and I'll explain more about that once I've built the second unit. As you can see, there's no base or back panel, and there's two reasons for that. One, you're not going to see it once the drawers are in, and two, it helps save some money on materials. Right, so that's the two outer base units complete. Now I've got to work out how I'm going to attach the middle section where the mitre saw is going to go. Right, so before I attach the middle section, I'm going to start putting on these levelling feet, and they just consist of T-nut and then the levelling foot itself, which you can wind in or out depending on whether you want to raise or lower the unit. These set cost me $9.99 for 20 of these, and it even comes with the drill bit to drill the holes. So I'll leave a link, if I remember, in the description if you want to take a look at these. 20 feet, $9.99. So you just drill the hole, insert the T-nut, and then insert the little levelling foot. So there's no set position you have to put these feet within reason. So I chose to come in 2 inches from either side, and I'm using a little bit of tape on the drill bit so I don't drill too deep. So as these T-nuts are slightly wider than the 18mm ply, when I put the first one in, it actually separated the layers of ply. So to prevent any further damage, I actually clamped 2 bits of scrap ply either side when I was knocking the T-nut in place, and this just helped to stop the wood from splitting. One thing to note when using these feet, if you're planning on putting 2 units right next to one another, make sure you stagger the feet, because if you put them in the same place on both units, you won't be able to push them together. Right, so after a lot of messing around, I've managed to get this bit at the right height, so the top of the saw bed is level with the top both sides. The way I did it in the end, I got some thin strips of 18mm ply and I clamped them front and back both sides, put the saw on and then made sure it was level with the tops both sides. Once I was happy with it, then I removed it all, put 3 screws along the length just to secure these strips, and now I've put this back on. It's not actually fitted on at the moment. I'm going to pocket hole this from underneath to the sides, and what I'm probably going to do once that's actually fitted on is remove these thin strips that I use to mess around with the levels, get another piece of 18mm MDF, and I'm going to double the thickness just to give this shelf a bit more rigidity, and then you're not really going to see that anyway because the drawer front. And once I've worked out where the saw's going to go, I can then mark out where I want to remove material to leave a gap for the dust to drop down into the drawer that's going to be here. So once I've positioned the saw where I wanted it and marked up where I wanted to remove material, I drilled a few holes so I could get the jigsaw blade in and then finish the cut. So as you can see, I didn't use pocket holes. I ended up just screwing it through the side, as this won't interfere with the drawer runners. Right, so the main carcass for the mitre station is finished. I've got to put the top on, and I'm not sure what I'm doing next to this, so I'm not going to put the top on that side just yet until I finalise the plans in my mind. But I thought I'd point out a couple of issues that I come across which I've had to work around. So obviously I'm having drawers in these side bits, and I've got a door trim which protrudes about 12mm off the OSB walls. My original intention was to butt this right up against my wall, because my walls are bang on plumb. So I was going to attach this directly to the wall, but then I realised that if obviously the drawer fronts are going to overlap this a little bit, so there's a chance they're going to catch on here and not be able to open fully. But the main problem that I forgot to allow for was the fact that the feet actually protrude slightly wider either side of the 18mm ply. So what I've done, I've cut some small little strips of 12mm ply, and I've attached 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom, and they're fixed through the side of the base unit into the 12mm OSB. So at least now I know that this gap is consistent from top to bottom, but it does mean that there's going to be a gap because obviously I pre-cut this top panel thinking I was going to butt it up to the wall. So now I'm left with like a 12mm gap on the side, but I'm not overly worried about that because I can sort that out later on. Right, so now I'm ready to attach the top, and I'm going to be securing that with screws from underneath so you don't see the screws on the top. But I'll put this on there just to hold it down, stop it from moving. So now I've finished the basic structure for the mitre station. I need to build another cabinet to go on the end here. It's going to be built exactly the same way. The only difference being it needs to be slightly wider. These are 25 inches wide, and this one needs to be around about 31-32 inches wide. So here you can see what I meant by staggering the feet. If you don't do that, you can't get the units close to one another. The final job is to finish attaching the tops, and I'm doing that in exactly the same way as I've done the right side from underneath. So I've taken the corners off the bench, and once I bolt the saw in place, it goes fully to 48 degrees both left and right. So that's the basic mitre station built. As you'll see, I've used 2 separate parts on this top piece, and the reason for that is because I was using parts from my old mitre cabinet rather than cutting into a big sheet. Don't really matter that it's in 2 parts. There's a few holes which I need to fill, but I'm going to be painting this anyway, so that don't matter. So there's going to be drawers in this section. There's going to be drawers in this section. Underneath the mitre saw there's going to be 1 drawer to start with, and that's going to be to catch the dust when you're using the saw. I'm also going to build a dust shroud around the saw with the front closed in like I had on my old mitre cabinet, because that's a great way of keeping the dust in and it works really well. Right, that's going to do it for part 2 of the workshop makeover. Make sure you stay tuned for part 3, where the build will continue. So if you're not already subscribed and you want to follow along with the workshop makeover, make sure you subscribe, and if you tap the bell icon, you'll be notified when I upload my next video. So if you did enjoy this video, all I ask is that you smash the like button, and until the next video, stay safe and you'll see me in the next one. Cheers for watching.